In this episode, we're going to be talking to the moon, which is currently in the sign of Sagittarius, but will be in a super full moon very soon in the sign of Capricorn. I have the impeding urge to call everyone assholes today, so we're going to talk about that. So censored language, listen at your own risk. This episode is sponsored by the donation-based readings I've been doing through my social medias. So just message me if you ever want a card reading, and I will do it in the messaging app with you, or you can read it later so you can have a copy. This episode is also sponsored by the airplanes that love to fly over me whenever I'm doing any sort of light work. So just keep that in mind for future episodes. All right, here we go. Another mini podcast with myself, Alexis of Ascension Diaries. Thank you again for pledging to my Patreon. We are working our way up to 500 pledges. I'm currently at 45, so we're doing good. We've made some progress from last week. We have some happy new people aboard, so I hope to entertain you today with a little bit of vulgarity, and it seems I'm channeling, and I'm learning to be a channel in a way that I'm not judging what's coming through. That's sort of my Libra nature. I think that Libra dominance that I'm able to bring to this planetary game, this chessboard that we're all on, and I'm trying to do my part for all of us. And today, the word assholes was coming through very strongly and being like, hey, assholes, get your shit together, basically. And working with the moon and the other planetary guardians. And if you haven't watched Sailor Moon, this may not make sense to you, but the idea that every planet in our solar system has a soul and may have a humanoid or god-like avatar for themselves to sort of defend themselves and their people and their plane. I've been watching a lot of anime, Japanese anime specifically, about this, and to hear that some very prominent Japanese being in the recent history of Japanese politics was, it seems like, terminated in the last week, and a lot has happened in the last week since we've talked. I didn't do a mini podcast last Monday because Jace's neck was hurting because his chakras are getting all fixed up. So thank you all of you with benevolent Reiki energy who've been helping me repair from the car accident we had on May 1st. That has been super helpful. My nose is continually getting worked on. I'm feeling it in real time, begin and end, the little sessions of adjustments that happened to me, which is what I called in. I'm allowing, and he's learning this technique as well. And through my example and the miracle that is occurring on my face, I hope to encourage him to also reach out to the community and welcome in the support and aid like I have done so. And many healers in the past know the help of, doing those group meditations where you can bring in all of that energy. If you're working together, it amplifies in incredible ways. And that's what's also happening with the full moon and this amplification of this, I want to say, this cosmic clown, the Joker, in a way that likes to push against the man, the system, the madness, the brainwashing. That's sort of the energy I'm feeling right now as these planetary guardians are shifting around. And in my studies this year, I was aiming to become better at astrology, and I'm working to learn the personalities and the interactions of all of these magnetic beings, electromagnetic beings. And I'm getting a ton of information about it. I'm having an excellent time awakening and remembering that aspect of my interests and of my skills here and of my abilities to channel. And I hope that doing these little mini podcasts Monday to Monday while I'm channeling with the moon and the sun, obviously it's daytime when I'm filming, you can hear the birds, and the sun is on my face. I do much better in the sunlight. I'm a sun being for sure, but the moon and I are getting better acquainted, and I'm realizing that more so with the water element, which you can also hear. So I'm getting a great mix of what is to come tonight and into the week with the moon energy. Sagittarius's, that is my north node, and Sagittarius's basically would call anyone asshole and get away with it because they're so cheeky and charming and so quick-witted and funny, and usually they're the ones challenging others first anyways, so they're usually on top of the situation before the situation even starts, and that's where our galactic center is Sagittarius. So that does make sense. You can't really get on top of a Sagittarius very easily. They usually are ahead of you, or they just simply don't care, and they're going to push your buttons in a different way because they're just beaming so much light and information. Honestly, they're so understimulated. I've noticed a lot of the time Sagittarius energy. So if you're feeling understimulated today, like perhaps I'm also feeling that, which is why I'm making content, which is why I'm often making content, because I have so many ideas and information channeling through me, and I'm inspired by whatever I just saw on social media, no matter how many seconds I've looked at it. And here I am making something and replenishing the well of the human mind with more input here and more channeled messages. And this super full moon in Capricorn, and these podcasts, these mini casts are only around 10 minutes that I try, but this, which is a very Capricorn statement. So our ability to organize, work with Saturn's energy, this mature organization, also leans us to remember that our heart chakras sometimes get closed because we get so in our head and so calculating about our approaches to life. And I just want to playfully bring in the moon's maternal, in a way, female guardian light over us and over our maternal planet. Even though the paternal side of the planet is also coming through recently, the green giant, which is awesome. So that sort of energy is balancing here. And we want to just encourage this structure and this discipline that of this major energy to go towards caring for the children. Because again, we are going to be in a Cancer moon. So we are caring, a Cancer sun, but we are caring as well. The sun cares about us right now very deeply, about our sensitivities. And so let's not be heartless. Let's open up those hearts. And I'm going to share with you a little story about a guardian that came to me yesterday that did the same for me. So this is perfect. I'm bringing in the animal element and the bird element again from the last podcast. I mentioned that hummingbirds were in the wild more so a messenger from the angels from my family line because they were so extremely rare, one. But now I literally see them every day in Sedona because this is where they live, because Sedona is pretty much a plane of heaven in a very interesting way. But the first pet and the first being that was ever considered a pet or a roommate of mine was a little blue budgie parakeet. And my mother raised him from a baby, I think handed it off to my grandmother for a few years when I was born. We then received it back to care for it when I was, probably around 6 or 7, I believe. And we had this quick bond. This little budgie loved to play on my head, play with my gold chain necklace, and we would have a great time. He was clipped, so he didn't fly. He was kept in the cage most of the day. He had a different lifestyle than the birds that I raised. But when he passed away, we were homeless in a way between houses. I was living in the basement of my aunt's house with my whole family because the house we were moving into wasn't finished building yet, which was a mistimed situation. But our bird was at the foot of my bed, this baby bird, my mother's bird, but was sleeping at the foot of my bed because we had made this bond, this blue avian and I. And I woke up one day and he was at the bottom of the cage, like petrified, basically. I'm assuming as an adult, had a heart attack and just kind of fell off his perch and boom, that was it. He left his body pretty instantly, it seems like, which is cool and fine and good now that I have the skills as an adult, of course. But back then, I didn't have those skills. I knew about God, I knew about Jesus, I knew about heaven. I had that integration already. I knew those things, but we weren't as heavily practiced. We didn't talk openly about God. But my aunt and uncle who we were living with and their kids, they certainly had more practice in their religion. They spoke and prayed over their food more. They spoke to God more. They went to church more. They were in the community more. And they had more family on that side of the family to engage in those activities more. My side was a little bit more neutral, a little bit more held back. We wanted our weekends to ourselves. we didn't really like the church communities. It wasn't really a thing. More introverted people maybe. And it wasn't like, we didn't like the show as much. It seemed like it was way more showy, just like these birds. But when this bird passed away, I closed a little door over my heart, and I realized yesterday during a channeling with a friend of mine who brought it up, and I realized that this little being had been with me, and I had closed my heart at that age because I simply just didn't know how to handle the grief. And I was more so concerned about my mother, and I had never watched her grieve anything before. So I more so just took a step back and watched her bury this bird, grieve this bird. It was her bird. It was her bird. So I was like, okay. But for me, it was hard because it was also my friend, and I didn't know how to say goodbye. So if you are grieving anybody, like, I'm still getting all caught up in my throat about it, because back then I didn't have the tools or the permission, or I felt safe grieving because I was sharing a room with my siblings and like a bathroom with my entire family, and there wasn't any really where for me to kind of go privately grieve or like deal with those emotions for the first time, and no one approached me about it. I don't remember where I felt very satisfied. I just kind of shut it down. So now I have more of a shut down attitude about death sometimes, and I kind of just I go very cold, and I just separate for that moment. And I think that's the lesson, is like, hey, don't close your heart like that. It's okay. Obviously, spirit never dies. The energy just literally transformed before your eyes, and now he's a spirit bird, and he's just in another vibration. So just treat him like he's still there if you feel him. But if you can't feel him, then what's going on, Ask him where he is. He still lives in your heart. And now I have this little male blue avian bird around me, and I had since I was little. And blue avians was one of the major things that woke me up into my galactic guardianship this lifetime as an adult back in 2016, I believe. But 2015 was when this information was being disseminated for the first time, and that's when I was literally graduating from university. So I was just being pulled out of the matrix then, realizing that I had been basically condemned to slavery with the student loans. And I had just realized it then, because obviously I was a naive child pretty much all the way up until that point, which is normal, basically, because I just studied brain development. It's extremely normal to not be able to understand these concepts until a certain level of brain development, which is into the 20s. Whoa. Oh my gosh. I hope that picked up on the audio. There's a heron, huge crane heron flying past, and I think the other bird that disturbed it was a hawk or an eagle. But something just really intense just happened in front of me in the nature, so that's good. Happy Moonday message. Today is the 11th of July, 2022. So those are some great codes. 7, 11, 22. And I think that's going to end this segment. It went a little longer, but still, that's pretty good. We're trying to keep them under 15 minutes at least, these mini casts. I really hope that bird sound picked up, because I've never heard the birds make such a noise. So I really hope. And that was an activation point where the guardians, like these birds and these big birds, these sentient bird beings and so on, came into my reality and validated me in a way that I couldn't understand. And I went on to a crazy seeking journey, and here we are now as I'm a teacher, and I'm embodying this guardianship. And I hope to do that more with all of us who are interested. And I'm creating a school for that, so I can keep these activations going. I'm doing this all intuitively, my whole Ascension Diaries thing. I'm not being advised by anybody, because in the physical, it seems like it's more just flowing through me so much. I don't have any moments to ask questions. It's like I'm just know what to do next. I know what to do next. I know what to do next. And so that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to observe the creations of schools and courses and learn those rhythms through observing my roommate here, my very busy roommate who needs a lot of Reiki help and fixing his neck. and taking care of him before we get this next level of school going. So these little casts and this other routine I'm doing right now, thanks to the Patreon pledges, I've been able to focus and like get my brain sorted. And this Capricorn moon is going to do the same. We're going to get some things sorted out. The full moons give us things that we manifested during the new moon. So be prepared to receive. One of the best ways to receive is to just relax and just be and forget about everything. Do something that'll just relax and make you just zone out in a way. So you could go, sit in the creek for a minute, or lay down in the backyard, or listen to your favorite music or album, and then boom, you'll be receiving, and because you'll have forgotten about it, so you've allowed it to come back to you. And watch, it should work. I know you probably know this, but I'm excited to see the sort of things that come through. So please, under this Patreon post, I would love to hear your comments and how you thought about this piece of audio and this channeling, and I will see you on the next one. So the idea is that I can give my content out for free and not have to worry about any sort of expenses, but we're in that balancing act right now, and my own sovereign sort of being in this reality needs the support from the numbers and the people I know I'm helping out there, and I'm welcoming it back in through Patreon. So all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Ascension Diaries, pledge whatever you want, and you will become a pledge, and we're reaching up to 500 people is the goal. And the monthly amount goal that I'm channeling in for this full moon is $4,000 a month of sovereign funding. And that is where my heart is lying right now. And until we move through that gateway, I am going to be working on that sort of energy flow, and everything I'm making from now on is with that intentional sort of sovereign action with my own audience, and the efforts I've been gaining and momentum I've been gaining over the last 6 years, which is super inspiring and was what the guardians were telling me I was going to be doing. And so much has opened up for me since then. Truly, it's almost hard to believe what I think about myself lately. I've just been like, wow. But it's only to help me get a perspective from where I'm standing. And the hounds are here to input their little bit as well. So my animal guardians and I appreciate you, and our sovereign power is aligning. Thank you so much. Love you guys.